Hello and welcome to What's Next. It's the Indy NXT Oval Series here from Gateway. We're back once again from the Worldwide Technology Raceway for the season finale of 2026 Season 2. Joining me once again is Sophie Connell back from Detroit. It's going to bring us through to the end of the season here with the Indy NXT Oval Series. And Sophie, this has been a track that's kind of delivered the last two seasons. We've seen it. What are we in for tonight?
Well, as we saw last season with the close finish between Dylan Vilashinsky, Ty Keela, and I believe Indy Kirchenbauer, this is a track that has a lot of draft, but also, like with the big IndyCar counterpart, it's different on both ends, and so you have to kind of stay on top of the car, Jacob. So I think we're up for anything right now.
That's certainly going to be quite the spectacle, as it tends to be here at Gateway. IndyCar, Indy NXT. There's always something going on here at the Raceway. We'll ride out with current reigning Junior Oval Challenge champion David Powers, as I believe he's going to, at least last I looked, he's going to repeat that effort this season. We'll see how that goes of our Ford machine tonight. He's heading out onto the course now, getting ready to put his qualifying run together, and we'll see what he's able to do here from Gateway. Nice and steady through 3 and 4.
Yeah, he was running kind of the middle line, trying to build momentum, build speed into that first lap, Jacob, as he starts his first flyer.
Nice and low in turns 1 and 2 here. This is likely just a banker lap, as we kind of know this car and this tire take a little bit of time to come up to temperature, so he's likely going to be waiting for that second lap to really let it fly. Here he comes into 3 and 4. See, he's going to try to build as much momentum as he can, run a bit further up the track here. Here he comes down the front straightaway. Powers goes to the point for now. 28.654 for the driver of the Ford machine. We'll see what he can put down on lap number 2. Kenneth Smith will take that away. 28.591 for the driver of the 20 machine. See what Powers does on his second lap here as he'll come off turn number 4 for the final time.
And goes to a 28.235, currently provisionally on the pole, Jacob.
Now we'll see if anybody can top that. The likes of Dylan Vilashinsky will. 28.211.
Yes.
See Aiden Kale back in the field. We'll see if he can have a bounce-back run from his run from the Road Series last night. Currently 7th on the grid. Jesse Francisco puts in a good time. That'll move him to 3rd. You got Chris Wetz, Clay Holman, Kenneth Smith, Taylor Thurman in 7th. Jamison Russell, winner last time out from Phoenix. Good to see him back in the field once again. We'll see if he can go back-to-back here tonight. Andre Castro back in the field in that 10th spot. Giovanni Blackerby rounded out our podium from Brands Hatch last night. Good to see him in the field again. You got the likes of Ellis Spice, Casey Lee back once again. Indy Kirchenbauer, not the qualifying run Indy was looking for. He's down in 18th. Maybe struggled on his second lap.
It looks like, it looks like on his second lap, Jacob, if you watch, there's a replay. He clipped the wall and just kind of just said, screw it, and just threw it into the inside wall hard for Indy Kirchenbauer. So looks like he invalidated the lap and just decided to, have a little fun with it. So he's going to be disappointed at that qualifying. And I think, barring a catastrophic mistake from Vilashinsky, I mean, I'm pretty sure this just kind of seals up the championship for Vilashinsky.
Yeah, we've got people rooting on Ellis Spice. We've got people rooting on Taylor Thurman. We'll take a look at the point standings, as there is at least some mathematical chance Kirchenbauer can roll it back. You'll see my goofy name at the top here because I did indeed run races in this series this season. I'm currently 700th in points, in case you were curious how I was doing with my one result here. But Vilashinsky leads Kirchenbauer by about, I think that's 83 points. At the top of the table there, you got the likes of Andre Castro, David Powers, Taylor Thurman, Giovanni Blackerby, Ashton Metters, Casey Lee, Jamison Russell, and Jesse Francisco rounding out the top 10. The likes of Clay Holman, Kelly Dahl, Kevin Crotty, Charlie Shanks, Clay Kirchenbauer, Ethan Harrison, Corey Kobe, Ryan A. Brown, Jonathan Morrison, Adam Blocker, Wetz, Yost, Menzies, Walker, and LeMay rounding out the top 25 here in the Indy NXT Oval Series. Going to crown another champion here. Dylan will likely be the first to go back-to-back. Here's how Jacob can still win. No, it is not. We'll see if maybe in due time I try to make a run maybe further up the standings in this series, but I got one race in this season earlier on this season at 5 Flags. That was an interesting one. We can save that for another time as we're still waiting for qualifying to conclude here from Gateway.
Yeah, while we're waiting on qualifying to conclude, I think that does work in Kirchenbauer's favor is, as we've seen, this track does allow a lot of passing, Jacob. It has a pretty strong draft. So Kirchenbauer might be starting deep in the field, but he's not necessarily out of it. And we saw last week Dylan Wylashinsky had trouble and was able to recover as well.
Yeah, we'll see if the driver of our 3 machine tonight can rally through the field and make at least a race of it here tonight for him. As qualifying concludes, and we're going to hit the grid here shortly. Get you caught up to speed with the stars and cars here tonight for the Indy NXT Oval Series season finale in 2026 Season 2. Once people actually get out there and get their cars available to us. Let's see if we can get a bit closer to the track here. There we go. Well, that's certainly an angle as well. We'll try this one. Still figuring out the cameras here for Gateway, a bit different here this week. Nice starting lineup, but we got to get through it quick because it's one pace lap here from Gateway. Dylan Wylashinsky on the pole with a 28.211. Alongside him will be reigning and likely continuing champion in the Junior Open Wheel Oval Challenge Series, David Powers. Jesse Francisco will line up third. He'll be looking to put together another solid run here tonight. Chris Wetz will line up fourth ahead of Clay Holman and Kenneth Smith. Taylor Thurman, Jamison Russell round out the fourth row. Aiden Kale and Andre Castro, typical road racing aces, making some oval appearances once again. They'll round out the top 10. Moving further back, you got Giovanni Blackerby finishing third from Brands Hatch last night. Move our way even further down, you got the likes of Quinton Fishland. He'll be 12th. Michael Taylor in 13th. Brunston Benning in 14th. Ellis Spice, Casey Lee 15th and 16th. Luke Barnes in 17th. Noah Hubbard in the 18th spot. Charles Shanks and Indy Kirchenbauer will round out the top 20. Only car outside of that, none other than Joey Vergara. Believe he'll be the lone car without having taken a time. 21 cars in the show tonight. We did get a split, I believe, to strike the field tonight somewhere in the neighborhood of 3,400. We're about to ready get rolling behind that iRacing pace car, the automation machine, as Sophie likes to call it. And there they go, rolling away, heading off towards turn number 1 here to get this race at least rolling in some capacity, Sophie.
Yes, and while he did not take a time, it looks like Joey Vergara has already disconnected from the server. Maybe he wasn't as prepared for this as he had previously thought, Jacob, or having some equipment issues as we line up behind the iRacing pace car.
It'll be interesting to see how this race plays out. We've seen it be very tight, close quarters action from top to bottom throughout the field each and every time we've come here. Can expect more of the same here as we're kind of working towards the sunset hours here from Gateway. Not quite sure what the in-sim time is. Sophie, you'd like to give us a gander on that one, that'd be appreciated. But the weather here tonight, 82 in the air, 86 on the track, 38% humidity with a 3-mile-an-hour southwest wind. Nothing crazy, nothing too dangerous. We're going to have a kind of a by-the-books race here tonight. Expect tire wear to play some factor here. We'll get underway here as they head off of turn number 4. Field will get put in control of Dylan Wylashinsky, and we'll get underway from Gateway.
Yeah, and it's around 6:30 sim time, Jacob, as Dylan Wylashinsky now has control of the field. Goes well past the end of the curbing in turn 4. He grabs the lead, commanding lead over David Powers. Powers has to look to his inside, worry about it. Jesse Francisco on his inside into turn number 1. Tricky on cold tires. Powers is going to power around the outside there. Wylashinsky immediately tries to snake down the bottom, and Chris Wetz is working the high line on Francisco.
Powers will just barely get cleared down to the bottom in 3 and 4. Wetzel funnel in behind Francisco there. They'll be single file down to about the 5th place spot as Clay Holman and Kenneth Smith go side by side for P5. Smith getting the draft off Wetzel ahead. That Miles Rose scheme for Clay Holman. You see Clay back in the field once again. He's going to have Jamison Russell, who was outside, the winner from Phoenix last week.
And we are watching the snake being deployed by Dylan Vilashinsky already, Jacob. Normally you see that on bigger tracks, but for these Indy NXT machines, this is the big track. And so he is snaking up and down, trying to break the draft, minimize what David Powers and Jesse Francisco can maybe benefit from him punching a hole in the air.
Yeah, this is only slightly shorter than the Nashville Super Speedway that we see these cars take on in the real world, that 1.33 mile concrete. They call it a intermediate, I think, but nonetheless, doesn't get much bigger for these cars normally than this, as we see Vilashinsky cut down to the bottom once again, cut to the outside as they head into turn 3. Powers is gaining little by little as we work lap number 4. Gonna have to see if he can make a fight here at the front. As we've seen it time and time again, it comes down to the final couple laps here. It takes a little while for these cars behind to reel the leader back in, but they tend to do it pretty much every time we come here, as Charles Shanks will go purple to 128.147.
Yeah, and Taylor Thurman currently moving up, currently residing in the 9th place. They had started 7th, slid back at the start, likely because they're on the inside. But I just saw them making a move on Aiden Kale, and currently looking to set their sights on Clay Holman.
That's actually right on board with that number 10 machine. Right on the back of Clay Holman through 1 and 2 there. Then off the corner here. Bit of contact with that outside wall. Stays straight, keeps it at speed here. Left Kale, I believe, to the inside here. Turn number 4. See a decent toe for the driver of the 10 here down the front straightaway. We get it turned on in 1 and 2 here. You see Andre Castro just ahead here. No stranger to winning in these Indy NXT machines, both on the road courses and the ovals. They look to the inside of Kenneth Smith ahead. Having a nice battle there between Castro and Smith. Thurman will look to the outside here. Currently runs in that 8th spot. Might be able to start battling for the top 5 here if he just build the momentum up, keep running that high lane. Castro. Oh, far the wall. That's Smith. He's going to fall down the order. We stay green. Looks like no major damage on that machine. Oh, he's got the meatball, so he'll likely have to take that machine down the pit lane. But tough break for Kenneth Smith as he was battling inside the top 5 there.
Yeah, he just clipped the back of, I believe that was Castro, and it just kind of sent him just straight up the track. And then, yeah, that car was just messed up.
Big crash. Sorry, Sophie.
Yeah, big trouble. That involves Giovanni Blackerby and a few others. So far, no caution, Jacob.
Yeah, Blackerby's on 3 wheels with a missing rear wing. Not sure how much he knows his car is damaged. Somehow able to get through the corner on 3 wheels.
Yeah, he's still driving around with 3 wheels on his wagon. He also clipped Indy Kirchenbauer in that incident. Kirchenbauer doesn't look to have any damage, but that's less than ideal if you are looking to be securing a championship.
Yeah, we'll get a look at Indy's machine here as Blackerby will get his car at least down to the access road. See if he can keep it on there. So we stay under green here. Let's hop to Kirchenbauer's machine now. He runs along in 12th. He's heading off through turns 1 and 2 here. Let's see if we can get a closer look here as he heads down the back straightaway. Doesn't look like there's at least any front end damage on that IL-15 for Kirchenbauer, so he might be okay for the time being. He's going to look to the outside. This is going to be Michael Taylor here for the 10th spot as they head down the front straightaway once more and head for lap number 12.
Yeah, and a big loser in all of that was Casey Lee, the Umamusume machine. Lost their side pod, so they're really hurting on speed, Jacob. So that car looking to be ready for the glue factory, I believe, as Kyle Clenworth would say.
Now there's Lee running along in 17th. I believe that's going to be the right side pod missing for that number 12 machine. We'll see if maybe they catch a break and catch a caution and can bring that car in for some repairs. You can see it for a brief moment. I guess more so now as we head down the front stretch with them, that they're completely missing that right side pod on that machine. Back towards the front, however, we've got Andre Castro trying to hold off Taylor Thurman and Aiden Hale. Thurman right to the back of Castro as they head off into 3 and 4.
Yeah, Holman trying every which way to find a gap around Castro. Sends it low into the corner. Castro really runs it high. And looks like Holman's getting a decent drive off the corner, but then just not enough to get by. Powers is also all over the back of Vilashinsky. He's able to get to the gearbox, but not able to quite get alongside the current points leader.
Now we'll move back to the battle at the front, as that's gotten as close as it's gotten all night long so far, as David Powers has gotten as close to within a tenth of that number 1 machine of Dylan Vilashinsky. The two ladder oval aficionados here duking it out at the front of the field. Powers will come to the inside in 3 and 4.
Yes, and you see him, he gets a little bit of momentum on entry, but then has to kind of give it up. And Dylan Vilashinsky maintains the lead.
Here they come into 1 and 2 once again. We'll see how they get underway through there. Vilashinsky's going to bust out the snake, the dragon, serpentine back around on the back straightaway here to try to hold David Powers off. Powers to the inside once again.
Yeah, Powers just loses that little bit of momentum in the middle of the corner, and that's just making the move not work for him. He just doesn't really feel comfortable moving off that bottom. Maybe he's on a single monitor, Jacob, and just can't quite tell where Vilashinsky is at in the corner. Vilashinsky doesn't deploy the snake this lap. We are on lap 17 of 45. Power sends it in deep, doesn't lose the momentum this time, sends it up, the car sliding up the track, gonna be directly in front. He nearly loses it. Vilashinsky has a bunch of momentum, is gonna be flying down the inside here into turn number 1.
Yeah, hits the crossover as cleanly as can be. They'll head off.
But now Powers is hitting it.
Yeah, Powers will have the momentum down the back straightaway. And this is kind of what we see every time we come here to Gateway, is once these cars get side by side at the front, it's hard to spread them apart. We saw it earlier this season at Darlington with Andre Castro and Indy Kirchenbauer. Once you got the cars side by side, there wasn't a whole lot you could do to shake each other, as Vilashinsky will power on the outside. Jesse Francisco in the picture as well. So a 3-car battle for the lead here as we work lap 19.
Yeah, Francisco has the momentum on the high side, is able to get alongside Powers, but not able to do much with Vilashinsky.
Francisco to the outside of Powers down the front straight. We'll see who wins that battle for second as they head through 1 and 2 once again as we work lap number 20. Kind of view off the rear of the Vilashinsky machine forward down the back straightaway. Kind of cool. You can see through the roll hoop on that IL-15 as he heads off into turn 3. Side by side for second between Francisco and Powers through 3 and 4. There they go down the front straightaway.
Go ahead, Jacob.
No, go ahead, Sophie.
I was going to say another battle that's been heating up is towards the tail end of the top 10. Chris Wetz and Aiden Kale have been swapping back 8th and 9th the last several laps, Jacob. And right there is Indy Kirchenbauer. We saw that he got in that incident with Giovanni Blackerby. His car doesn't look too badly hurt, but he's now watching from 10th, trying to look for another way up the field with just over halfway left in this race.
Yeah, Kirchenbauer runs just behind this battle here. Castro holds off Taylor Thurman once again. That was a close call off of turn number 2 there. We'll get closer to the action there. So here comes Wetz working the low side towards Thurman. We'll talk about some of the rest of the racing we got going on this week. If you like what you see here in this IL-15, we'll have the Elite Racing League Indy Light Series this Thursday. LGN on the call for that. Rounds 3 and 4 from Belle Isle and Richmond, respectively. That'll start at 7:45 Eastern Time Thursday night. Friday night, we'll have AMA Truck Series action from Michigan, 8:20 p.m. Eastern Time. Mark Murphy, Caleb Brashear on that one. Saturday, the INDYCAR iRacing Series event from Gateway will take place 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and then special coverage of the Votive Racing League season finale at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday. That's once again 4 p.m. Eastern Time this coming Sunday. We work lap 23. This is the season finale for our official series in 2026 Season 2. That means Week 13 is next week, so a bit of a lighter schedule for us here on the channel. You should be on the lookout for our Indy Next Road Series track guide we'll be putting up later on next week. We'll go back to the battle for third, actually, as Jamison Russell has powered his way up to the third spot, now behind Jesse Francisco, and they're falling well away of Dylan Vilashinsky now, as he's worked about 4/10 back on this group of cars back here.
Yeah, Powers and Francisco were swapping positions furiously, and that allowed Russell to catch back up and also just allowed Vilashinsky to pull away a bit. And he's probably hoping they continue to kind of swap positions and kind of bang a little bit. As they do, in fact, touch down the front straightaway between Francisco and Russell. As long as if they keep racing like that, this is going to be Dylan Vilashinsky's race to lose.
Vilashinsky busts out the snake, the serpentine down the back stretch. They'll be side by side behind him with Francisco and Russell. Then you got Powers, Clay Holman in that Miles Rowe scheme on the outside of Andre Castro. Chris Wetz in the white car behind that. You got Indy Kirchenbauer at the tail end of this group. Top 10 very close together. If we look at the gap from kind of second to 10th, you've got about a half second separating this entire group of cars behind Dylan Vilashinsky, as Vilashinsky's got about a half second to them.
Yes, and speaking about a half second, that is the speed differential between Casey Lee, the last place running car, and Dylan Vilashinsky, and we've got a decent handful of laps to go, Jacob, with that closing speed. Casey Lee will be a factor in a handful of laps here. And so that should be throwing a wrench into Dylan Vilashinsky's plans to streak away here, as well as the fact that everyone's kind of seemed to settle in behind Jamison Russell in hopes of letting Vilashinsky not get away.
There comes Powers to the inside of Russell for second. You see Francisco under fire from Andre Castro for the third, or the fourth spot rather. Powers will clear. Oh, big hit for Jamison Russell on the exit of turn 2. We'll see if that machine's got damage on it in a significant fashion. Here comes Castro on the bottom. Russell manages to stay under power, it seems, so he's going to get away with that one. As they head on turn number 4, they'll be side by side, heading into turns 1 and 2 here. Power starts to skirt away. Is he going to be able to reel back Dylan before this one ends? Gap's about 0.3 of a second as they exit turn number 2. Big shot to the outside for Chris Wetz.
Yeah, I don't see any damage on Russell's car. But that was quite the hit, Jacob. You would expect there would be, but Tamara knows how to build it.
That certainly seems to be an all-or-nothing situation with this IL-15. Either you get away with it or you most definitely do not. Kirchenbauer has worked his way up to the 8th spot. Oh! Big slide for Castro. Did he hang on to that? Or no, that was Russell. Russell held on to it.
That was off of the rear of, so it looks like he washed up in front of Castro, and Castro just ran right into the back of him, basically saying, you know what, you're not going to cut me off. I'm just going to, use the old chrome horn, and now Russell has fallen all the way down to 14th place, and we're lap 32 of 45.
Yeah, we'll watch it from inside the car here, and yeah, it just looks like Russell barely gets ahead of Castro. Castro kind of bumps the left rear tire, the right rear tire of that machine, sends Russell down the track. We'll hop up to the real-time events now as Castro is trying to hold off the rest of this gaggle. It's going to come down likely to David Powers and Dylan Vilashinsky. Very close call between Castro and Jesse Francisco through turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, they have been kind of banging wheels and front wings earlier, as they've made a very good effort at having contact there. As now Clay Holman is going to look on the inside of Francisco. Meanwhile, Powers and Vilashinsky have streaked away. They are just gone, relatively speaking. They're about a second ahead of Castro. Francisco's on the wall! Oh! Aiden Kale there under yellow. Kale flipping, spinning over. And you know who else was in that? Indy Kirchenbauer.
Yeah, we'll see if we get a look at how that started as Kale lines up upside down in the infield here from Gateway. Pull the cameras back. Okay, here's the start of it. We'll get a little further back here as they head down the front straightaway here. We'll actually ride on board with Kale here. So here's Francisco and Kirchenbauer. Bit of contact as they head into turn 1. They get away with that one. Here they come into 1 and 2. We're going to see Francisco working the high side here. We're going to see Kirchenbauer running low. Oh, looks like maybe netcode contact between Holman and Francisco starts that. Kirchenbauer grabs Francisco as Francisco comes down. That's going to put Aiden Kale up and around and over. And he'll wind up turtled, stuck on his lid here down the back straightaway here from Gateway.
Yeah, really wasn't much Aiden Kale could do there. So he had Chris Wetz to his inside. But that kind of storm was brewing for a few laps there, Jacob. We were watching some aggressive moves from Francisco, from Castro, from Holman. Castro gets the wall, clips Kirchenbauer. That slows everyone up. And really, Kale didn't have much where he could go at first until that incident had already developed, and it was just too late at that point. So, tough break for Aiden Kale. And now Casey Lee gets a reprieve here, Jacob, because he gets to repair that side pod and potentially maybe turn a bad day into a just okay day.
Yeah, we'll watch him down the pit lane. Tough break for Kale, as obviously we saw him leading the Indy NXT Road Series event last night from Brands Hatch. Made contact with a lap car fairly late in that one. Ultimately wound up out of contention in that one. Ultimately came to Dustin Smith winning that race last night. Casey Lee's still in the pit lane here. We'll see if he's able to get out. He likely will. There's the side pod back on that 12 machine for Casey Lee. We'll see if he can rejoin the field here before they loop back around behind him. Excuse me.
Indy Kirchenbauer was in that incident, Jacob. Got clipped Francisco, got sent to the outside wall. I don't see any damage on his car. I see the side pod still attached. So he might be okay. He has climbed from 20th on the grid to 6th. Obviously, Vilashinsky is still leading. So, not ideal for him, but he has done an excellent job tonight trying to, mitigate that damage.
Yeah, we'll see what Kirchenbauer can do with just a handful of laps to go here. Obviously, Vilashinsky is going to get the best opportunity in a good while. Good to see Stephen Hart in the chat, rooting on David Powers, his competitor down in that Junior Open Oval Challenge. It's kind of come down to those two for the last, I don't know, four seasons or so as to who's going to win the title. Good to see Stephen out here supporting on his fellow competitors as we work on to the final lap behind this pace car here. We'll get, I believe, green with 8 laps to go here. That may be just enough time for these cars that maybe restart behind Vilashinsky to reel him back in. But we'll have to just wait and see. This will end the streak this series had of having at least one caution-free race every season. So that'll unfortunately go the way. I thought maybe with those wrecks earlier not having them, we might luck out and get away with it. But we'll have to hold off and restart that one next season as the pace car will pull off. Vilashinsky gets control. Sophie, take it away.
Yes, Dylan Walaschinsky launches earlier this time than he did. We are back underway. Castro immediately taking a look on David Powers. Did he pass him before the line, Jacob? I don't know. But Castro looking to make a move for second. And then you have Chris Wetz and Clay Holman fighting over the 4th place spot. Indy Kirchenbauer looking to get in on that fight as well.
Powers. Castro will look back to the inside, I believe, down the front straight. They'll head into 1 and 2 again. Here comes Castro nice and low. Powers stays tough on the outside here. Side by side off the corner. Walaschinsky will come to the outside to maybe pull Powers along a little bit. He'll cut back down to let Castro forward. He knows that the more these cars fight behind him, the less likely they are to catch him. Here comes Castro.
Oh, yellow. What has happened? Oh, I see a dead Clay Holman. Sorry, Clay Holman's still alive. His car is not.
Well, it's still moving.
Contact. It's still moving. It's a gently used IL-15, Jacob.
Yeah, I know what I got. No tire kickers is what we'll be saying after that for one for Clay Holman. But let's get a look at what happened to him before the rear wing fell off. So there he is back around. Okay, so here's coming off turn 2. See if we can get a bit closer to the action here for that one. There we go. Clay Holman in that Miles Rowe scheme on the outside. Kirchenbauer is going to take it. Looks like 3 wide into 3 and 4. Here comes. Ooh.
And that's.
Looks like maybe contact between himself and Chris Wetz is going to send Holman around into the outside wall. Premature end for a car running well inside the top 5 or so. Not the way he wanted this one to end.
No, and Clay was having a good run there. And honestly, what I think happened here, Jacob, I think he didn't realize he was on top of 3. And I think he was expecting Wetz to be lower. And so, because you just see him, he just turned straight down as if he wasn't expecting Wetz to be there. Wetz kind of had to be there because he had Kirchenbauer to his inside. So, tough break for all involved. Holman has a meatball. So his night is probably done as we are working lap 40 of 45. So lights not out on the pace car. We're probably going to get a couple of lap shootout here, Jacob, and that's you never want to call it early, but as we've seen, it takes a little bit for these cars to catch them. Something to keep in mind too is will David Powers try to jump Castro? Castro made a very aggressive restart, and based on what I've seen in the chat in the sim, Jacob has not exactly made friends tonight. So be curious to see if that kind of plays out at all.
I believe I also heard an engine blow up, so I'm not sure if that was maybe one of the cars already in the pit lane or if that's somebody out on the track that maybe did an oops. Don't see anyone drastically slow on the course.
No, I only see 2 cars with a meatball, and those are Giovanni Blackerby and Clay Holman. So no one else seems to have any damage here. I do see Jesse Francisco is disconnected after his incident, so a lot of attrition so far here, Jacob. Lights are now out. We're working lap 42, Jacob, so it'll be 43 as they get the green, so 3 laps to go. Think of it, not quite a green-white checkered situation.
Yeah, Vault 9, we don't get overtimes here in Indy Next Land. That's a NASCAR thing. The open-wheel cars do it correctly. The advertised distance is when the race ends. Even if we sometimes like throwing red flags, it at least ends at the scheduled distance. So we'll get one final crack at it for this one.
Yes, Walaschinsky is hugging the wall this time, giving the pace car a big gap as that automation-esque pace car dives onto pit lane. Walaschinsky goes now, immediately cuts to the inside. Castro gets a decent launch and follows. Leaves Powers behind. Walaschinsky weaving every which way. as Castro sends it off into turn number 1 behind him.
Here they come down the back straightaway, working lap 43 here. Lots of cars jockeying for position behind them as Kirchenbauer will look to the outside of David Powers for third. See if he's able to make that one stick through 3 and 4 here. Looks like he'll at least be alongside down the front straight here. Powers still stuck on the inside there. He'll clear down the front stretch.
Yeah, that was a powerful move there by Kirchenbauer. See if he can maybe get ahead a little bit more, going from 20th to the podium here, Jacob. And despite being caught up in 2 separate incidents, this has been a very eventful race for the Prodigy.
Now we'll hop back to the battle at the point to see if anything will happen between Castro and Vilashinsky, as that's likely where it's going to happen here as we get one lap to go.
Flag. And Castro looks low through 1 and 2. Vilashinsky runs the middle, kind of gets the momentum. Indy Kirchenbauer goes purple that last lap. He is in the draft and he is hungry, but I don't think he is going to have enough. Castro runs the curb. That sends him up high. He's going to hand the win to Dylan Vilashinsky. Once again, will win. Castro jumps out of the throttle immediately after crossing the line. Creates a hairy moment for Kirchenbauer, who has a great recovery drive to P3. David Powers P4, and I believe Chris Wetz came home in 5th, Jacob.
Yeah, that'll be the top 5, and look at that. Cars 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 finish exactly in that order here tonight. You don't see that every night of the week. The iRating did its job in that regard, as we'll watch Vilashinsky circulate back to the front straightaway and get race and championship celebrations underway as he'll go back-to-back here in the Indy NXT Oval Series, the first 2-time series champ. We've only had 3 seasons, so you only could have been one other man, and that would have been Indy Kirchenbauer, who finishes 3rd here tonight. Dylan will burn it down. Let's run you through the finishing results from our season finale here from Gateway. It will be Dylan Vilashinsky on the top of the pylon, as tends to be the case here in the Indy NXT Oval Series. We'll get to talk to him about maybe some future plans and what he thinks of this season on the whole. Andre Castro will finish 2nd, and the number 2 machine comes up just short after a hard-fought race for him. Indy Kirchenbauer comes from basically dead last in the field to finish on the podium here tonight. Maybe not how he wanted this one to go. Maybe he'd been at the front of the field, he would have been in contention for the win proper. David Powers, Chris Wetz round out the top 5. That's the last of the cars within the 1-second bracket to finish this one off. Michael Taylor, Luke Barnes, Jamison Russell will not go back-to-back. He'll finish 8th tonight. Noah Hubbard, Brunson Benning will be the last car inside the top 10. Working our way to 11th through 20th, you got Charles Shanks, Casey Lee. They recovered to 12th after that damage early. You got Taylor Thurman, Ellis Spice, last car on the lead lap, finishes 15th. I believe there was some contact late for him. Will finish 15th there. Aiden Kale will finish 3 laps down following a heavy incident earlier on this evening, likewise with Clay Holman, Jesse Francisco, Giovanni Blackerby, Kettis Smith, and I believe Joey Vergara did not even take the green in 21st. Dylan's still looking to burn those tires completely off on that IL-15. We'll see if we can get to talking to some other drivers here about their nights. See if the likes of Andre Castro will join us. Indy certainly will. See what everybody has to say following another great race from Gateway.
Yeah, if Dylan Vilashinsky paid for those tires, he's certainly going to use them all, get his money's worth out of those Firestones.
So we'll get the cameras caught back to when Kirchenbauer existed on the speedway. Go back even still. And this will get Kirchenbauer up on the screen. We'll get him on up in here, as I'm sure he'll have some things to say about tonight's race. Indy, Jacob Collins, Sophie Connell, P1 Broadcasting. You got us?
Yep, I got you.
Well, nobody had to pass more cars to make it where they finished to tonight than you. Walk us through what would have been a very eventful race for you. There was kind of collisions you were involved in throughout this one, but you came out unscathed and picked up a podium finish to round out this season here from Gateway. How'd you feel the race tonight?
Yeah, I would have felt a lot better if iRacing would have put like 15 more minutes into their setup building and not made an absolute plow box. So, uh, yeah, but it was certainly very fun to work through the field. Yeah, just being able to make those moves on the outside, on the inside, sometimes changing it up a bit. Yeah, it was certainly a race. At least I at least I didn't get crashed in this one like the IndyCar one. So, yeah, it was fun. I slapped the wall in qualifying, um, so that's why my lap was so horrible, and I just parked it on lap 2 after I did that, and was just yeah, just able to slowly work my way up through the field. Took me a while to catch up to the top 9, but eventually we got there with wheel damage, and we were able to pick up the podium. Just need a few more laps to catch Castro and Dillon. So yeah, it's just certainly it was certainly a fun one to come from the back, but yeah.
Yeah, certainly always hard to start off on the back foot here, starting essentially tail end of this field tonight with Vergara not taking the start. Got to talk us through some of the things you had to do tonight to make it through this many cars. Obviously, we didn't get a caution until the last handful of laps there to really reset the field, so you more or less had to do the bulk of your passing on merit under green flag conditions with no major incidents to speak of. Do you have any tips or thoughts as to what worked and what didn't here working your way through the field tonight?
Yeah, you definitely wanted to pass on the bottom was a lot easier. A lot easier in 3 and 4 than it was in 1 and 2. But passing on the top was overall better. It's just if somebody goes to the inside of someone in 1 and 2, can you get to the outside, hang in 3 and 4, and then clear them in 1 and 2? And vice versa. If somebody goes low in 3 and 4, then they don't have the draft on the front stretch, and then you can just slot in line on the top, get a big run off too, and make the move. That's how I made most of my passes. Just benefiting from other people, um, not having as much experience in the car, um, and knowing to protect the top. But yeah, we're just able to just work through this field. I just wish the racing was. I just think the racing would be a lot better if we were able to, you know, not have really bad setups every week. So, yeah, it was certainly fun racing it this season. Um, Congrats to Dylan on the championship. Was a fun fight. Um, but yeah, we'll be definitely will be will be racing in some next season.
Yeah, certainly a season of what could have been for you. You'll be looking forward to the next one and maybe try to put together a championship run again yourself. Obviously won the championship in the inaugural season of this series. Sophie, you got anything to add for Indy tonight?
I mean, Indy, I was gonna ask if your car was damaged because it seemed you were in the bit of the eye of the storm. It seemed as you were involved in an incident that didn't bring out a yellow that took out Giovanni Blackerby, and then involved in one of the cautions there, where I believe it was Jesse Francisco and Aiden Kale got together. So, which incident gave you the wheel damage? Was it the Blackerby incident or the Francisco one?
It was the Blackerby incident. The Francisco one, I mean, he got hit first, but I should have been lower on exit. I will apologize for that. That was I kind of washed up a little bit too much on P2, so um yeah, so yeah, certainly just a fun race working from the rear. We have a really good schedule next season. Missing one track, but yeah, it's really good other than that. So it is certainly it'll be fun next season.
Yeah, certainly many storylines to tell, regardless of the track list. we'll cover that a bit later in tonight's show. But Indy, another podium finish for you to round this season out. You know the drill. Friends, family, sponsors. Anybody you'd like to shout out? Floor is yours.
Yep. Yeah, just shout out my go-kart sponsors, BG Marine Associates, Make Something on YouTube, Bayside, Comfort Heating and Cooling. I'd like to thank you guys for putting on the broadcast, and um, I thank everybody watching, and I'll thank my dad, and we'll be going into next season after an off week in week 13 with a really good schedule, better than this season. So, yeah, just a thank you to everybody who helps run the series and puts a lot of effort in. It just it's disappointing when we have so many people putting so much effort and doing so much good for this car, and iRacing can't do anything. So, yeah, just thank you to everybody watching.
Well, thank you for joining us, Indy. Hopefully continuing to help us build the great thing we've got here with this Indy NXT on the iRacing service. We'll catch you next time, as I believe we'll head off into next season, taking on the Iowa Speedway and its legacy configuration now, I guess, with its 2011 scan.
All right, sweet. That was a fun one last time, so I'll be there.
And we'll certainly hopefully catch you there. Go celebrate tonight, Indy. Good run tonight.
Yep, thank you.
That'll do it for third place, Indy Kirchenbauer. We'll get Andre Castro up on the screen momentarily here. But obviously, we'll have our champion, Dylan Vilashinsky, with a lot to say as well. Give Castro his due for another solid run for the driver of the two machine tonight. He pieced together our 1 through 5 I-rated number cars in the top 5 here this evening. Not every day you get to see that. And we'll move on to Dylan Vilashinsky, who I'm sure will no doubt have a lot to talk about here from tonight's race. Dylan, Jacob Collins, Sophie Connell, P1 Broadcasting. You got us? Well, you round out the season, kind of the storyline that's been running throughout this series history with another win here on the top split here on P1. Walk us through tonight's race. It looked like you were fighting tooth and nail for it, even with leading the bulk of the laps here tonight.
It was a lot of try and maintain the gap between second place because it was really, really, really hard to pass. But if they got to you, there was always the risk of, they get to your inside and then they might hit you on corner exit and ruin the whole night. It was just try and swerve on the straightaways, keep them out of my toe as best that I could, and hopefully have them all fight each other for position for second, and let me just kind of run my race up front by myself.
Yeah, we saw kind of lap over lap, especially down the back straightaway, kind of slicing down to the bottom and then back up, particularly with the likes of David Powers trying to chase you down in the kind of middle to later stages of that opening run. Obviously, we had a very long green flag run to kick this race off. I believe it was about 35 or so laps. Kind of walk us through how that kind of plays a toll on you up at the front. Obviously, as the laps click by, the cars behind you have a bit of an easier time to catch, and you're spending more and more time kind of looking just as much behind you as you are ahead. How do you manage that situation, especially over a long green flag run like that?
It's a lot of trying to save your tires as best as you can because, despite being in clean air, you can still scrub the tires pretty badly up front. And what I had been noticing throughout most of that first run is that somehow Power was able to. It seemed like he could keep his tires under him a little bit more because he would be gaining on. I get a bit of a gap on him, and then he would start to gain it back, and then I'd gain a bit of a gap, and then he'd start to gain it back. So it was just trying to manage my front tires in case the whole run went green, so that way I'd have something to try and fight with if he ever was able to make it up to me. I was very thankful for that yellow because let the tires cool off, made it a lot easier towards the end.
Yeah, certainly always helpful to get those things at least reset a little bit and be able to fire off with the lead in hand. Sophie, you got anything for Dylan tonight?
Well, Dylan, you kind of actually just answered the question I was going to ask here. It was how grateful were you for those last two yellows? Because you've really been able to kind of control the pace at the start of a run. And also, obviously, that gave your tires a chance to cool down. So how confident were you it had the race remain green?
I was feeling all right. I was getting a little nervous because towards the later half of that first run, it was really hard to try and take 3 and 4 flat without pushing up towards the wall on exit. I was trying to keep it down low as best as I could, but it was just killing the tires trying to do it. But then running up high wasn't really helping much either. And that was what I was afraid was, because I would look at my mirror and I would see Power running 2 lanes lower than me somehow. So he was doing something that I wasn't doing to save tires, at least from what I could see, a little bit better than me. So being able to get that reset really helped the confidence in the late stage of the race.
Well, certainly a good way to close that one out with the confidence in hand, at least enough to close the story of a very dominant performance here from Gateway. But it's been a fairly dominant performance once again this entire season, as you'll pick up the series championship for the second time in a row here, as you picked up another 3 wins on top of this one alongside 4 other podiums throughout the season here on the channel. Kind of walk us through maybe some of the highlights and maybe some of the lowlights you had throughout this season, working your way to back-to-back championships here in the Indy NXT Oval Series.
It started out really good, I thought, at the first couple of races of the season, minus Motegi where I got crashed out. But like when I did good at Oswego and then I did good with the tire strategy at Five Flags, I thought I was just kind of gonna cruise to the finish with the big gap that I had built up. But then once we started getting the drop races in, Indy started catching up really, really quickly. And the later half of the season, it seemed like every other race I was finishing either behind him or maybe a spot behind that, because he would always pit me in qualifying. Like I'd get pole, and then we'd sit there for like 2 minutes, and then he'd go out and beat me by like 2/100th of a second or something. It seemed like it was doing that every week. If that wreck at Indianapolis a couple weeks ago had happened, and he had a really good race, I think he probably would have won the championship. The fact that we both got taken out ended up helping me in the end. So it's unfortunate we didn't get to race it out that way, but I'm taking what I can get.
Yeah, certainly you got to run the season that happened and not the one that didn't. You come out on top once again. We'll hopefully get to see you next season. It sounded like at least a couple weeks ago that you were not confident you were going to be able to make the time slots for this show next season. You got any insights on that, or are you going to make another crack at it here?
As much as I'd like to, there's going to be some scheduling conflicts that'll prevent me from running most of the strength of field races throughout most of the summer. I might be able to join for a couple of them towards the end, but I don't think I'm going to be able to compete for the championship. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus my efforts over to the roadside, because I've only driven this car on road maybe a handful of times, and I'd like to, now that I've got oval figured out, I'd like to try and get an idea of how to do it on the roadside.
Well, it'll certainly be good to have you on the track one way or another, whether that be the round ones or the twisty bits. But we'll congratulate you once again on your championship here tonight. You know the drill. Friends, family, sponsors, anybody you'd like to shout out, floor is yours.
Yeah, first I'll shout out to you guys at P1 Broadcasting for airing all these races. Shout out to my teammate Charles Shanks. He's been helping me prep for each one of these strength of field races all season. We'd be doing the Monday races together every weeknight. Shout out to Indy for all those pole positions he got over me, just as tiny little bits each week, it seemed. And as usual, shout out to Get Good Racing, and shout out to the Sprint Car Cup. They run 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday.
Well, we'll certainly thank you for joining us once again up here in the booth now as a 2-time series champ, Dylan. We'll catch you wherever we catch you heading forward here on P1 Broadcasting.
I appreciate you guys. Y'all have a good one.
You as well. That'll do it for tonight's winner and series champ, Dylan Vilashitsky. And we'll take this moment to kind of preview the upcoming series schedule, as we'll kind of let Dylan ride around off in the background here. Find another camera angle there. We'll do this one as he continues to ride there. So we'll kick off next season in the cornfields of Iowa, and it's 2011 scan to kick off season number 3 of 2026. Week 2 will take us to South Boston for the first time in the series for 100 laps of short track action under the lights. And I'll follow up with a repeat visit to the Magic Mile in New Hampshire for round number 3. Week 4 will see us back at the Richmond Raceway for some more short track action. Week 5 will see the return of the Nashville Super Speedway to coincide with the real world event for the Indy NXT Series that'll occur that week, the week of July 14th. Followed up by another trip down to the state of Tennessee at the Nashville Fairgrounds for round number 6. We'll kick off a Carolina swing of 3 races, starting off at the short track of Southern National Motorsports Park for round number 7. Week 8 will see a series debut for Rockingham as well. Week 9 will return to the Darlington Raceway. Week 10 will be another short track, this time the the Lanier Speedway in Atlanta, right across the street from Road Atlanta. Week 11, we'll see the return of the Milwaukee Mile to line up with that real-world event as well. And then the season finale will be under the lights from Kevin Harvick's Kern County Raceway for another 100 laps of short track action under the lights, Sophie. And a lot to look forward to. We had a lot of great action this season. I expect nothing less as we roll off into Season 3.
Yeah, Season 3 has a wide variety of tracks, a lot of new tracks as well, Jacob. Excited to see how these cars race at Kern. As we saw with tracks like Myrtle Beach, those 100 laps races are really kind of an endurance test. And even though with colder track temps, you kind of have a situation where you still do need to look after your tires just that little bit if you want to have that extra at the end.
Yeah, a lot of those short track venues, it's kind of the perfect mix of the flatter tracks with the likes of South Boston and Lanier, and then you've got Kern County and the likes of the Nashville Fairgrounds. With a bit more banking going on, we'll hopefully catch everybody out for those, or at least a couple of those, next season. Initial mint, Dylan Wackadonkey, just a cool guy with cool tires. I don't think we could say it much better ourselves. We'll give our condolences to, I believe that's going to be Casey Lee in the chat with just man. Tough race for Casey Lee. Rebounds to that 12th place finisher tonight. We'll hopefully get to see more of them next season. And Sophie, that'll do it for us here in season number 2 for the Indy NXT Oval Series. We'll congratulate Dylan Wylashinsky once again for the series championship back-to-back. Both our champions for the Indy NXT Series this season are repeats from the season prior. We'll see if we can continue either of those, likely with the Road Series for Jarrett Corey going for 3 in a row in that one. Thanks for joining us as always, everybody. We will thank all those that do the difficult jobs all around the world for doing all that they do and allowing us to bring you the likes of the Indy NXT Oval Series here on P1 Broadcasting. Have a good night, everybody. We will catch you next season.